Well, this is an interesting video to make because Donald Mustard has officially announced that he's retiring from Chief Creative Officer at Epic this month. That's what he's been doing the last few years. He's been the person, the brains behind the storyline, the brains behind the evolution of the game, and just generally the main innovator for the creative side of Fortnite alone. Just Battle Royale, we're not talking about Fortnite creative here, focusing on Battle Royale and how that's evolved. And Donald Mustard has been the lead kind of main in that, from what we are aware of, especially with his role title as well. Now, he put a tweet out about this. It kind of just explains that he's retiring from that. He's been in the game industry for 25 years, and he kind of like lists off a bunch of his favorite accomplishments. But the most important part in this tweet, because we want to focus on Fortnite here, is where he says, "I am humbled to have been part of the team that every day tries to bring joy and delight to the Fortnite community. We love watching you experience every moment, leaping from the battle bus for the very first time, seeing the rocket crack open the sky, even dancing with friends after a victory royale, being sucked into a black hole, or being washed out to sea as the island flipped over." And on and on. There's so many scenarios of this, to be honest. I can't wait to now share in the future of Fortnite as a player alongside all of you. The teams are in the best hands and they're working on huge, jaw-dropping, amazing things. And then he goes to thank his family and obviously Tim Sweeney himself and the Epic Games family. So that main section of the tweet there, he does tell us that he's been behind the brains basically of all these main things, and we will be in good hands for huge, upcoming, jaw-dropping, amazing things. But it does send alarm bells ringing in my head because Chapter 4 has been dead for storyline-wise. And this is where I'm very worried because Donald Mustard has told a Fortnite storyline over 5 years. He's been consistently at the game developing it. He's been there, he knows the characters, he's built the characters, and he's also possibly put hints and connections to each character in the storyline, in the timeline at set points. Now, what makes me worry about this is when a new creative officer comes in, they're not going to be aware of all the time points of these skins and who has connections with what. Now, obviously, not every skin in Fortnite is part of the storyline, and we're aware of that as a community. Now, don't get me wrong, Donald Mustard is probably one of the best creative directors that we've ever received or had in the gaming space. He innovated Fortnite so much, created so much, and is a huge inspiration and someone that I look up to for that concept and what he's done with Fortnite. The worrying part is what happens next and who takes over. And I think that is what I really want to focus on for the rest of this video. I don't really want to talk about how amazing Donald Mustard has been for this whole video because he is amazing. He's been incredible for Fortnite. And I just want to say that just to make sure we get that clear just before I go like kind of too negative or too sidetracked about the storyline and the future for Fortnite, because it is important to know that Donald has accomplished some stuff which no one ever could have with the direction that he took Fortnite, with all the live events, the experiences, the storyline that we did receive, but there is lots of gaps to be filled. And can the next person do that? So let's explore it. A new person taking that role, even someone that's not Donald Mustard themselves, unless they've sat with Donald Mustard throughout the entire process of Fortnite, from the start to the finish of the storyline, they're not going to know as much as what he knows. It's kind of like what happened with Star Wars. If you look what happened with that, when Disney took over, the only person that can actually write good Star Wars episodes, in my opinion, is Dave Filoni. The rest just can't write it. Now, that's a different topic entirely, but it's kind of similar to that, you know, when someone else takes over the storyline, the lead, it's kind of just, they don't really know what's going on. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm very concerned for Fortnite Battle Royale's story. This, to me, was a huge shock getting this announcement, especially after Collision was a great event, and then we had Fracture, which was just awful. And then, obviously, Chapter 4, which has had terrible storyline writing. I do have a storyline video popping tomorrow for the new storyline, and it's a good storyline video, to be honest. It does break down the best we possibly can, but terrible writing for the average player to understand. It's beyond easy for an average player to understand because of the way it's done in game with the quest system and the way there isn't any live events, there isn't any story cinematic trailers releasing anymore. It's almost like Donald's been pushed away at the end of Chapter 3 and they've said, wait a minute, storyline needs to slow down. We don't want to develop that anymore. We want to develop UEFN as the future. And as much as I love UEFN, and you guys know that I make UEFN maps, I make UEFN projects and all that, I generally do think that Epic are putting too many eggs into the UEFN basket knowing that the current state of UEFN relies on Battle Royale anyway. All the popular maps that are in UEFN currently are Battle Royale related maps. There's nothing in UEFN that's super popular that's its unique map. We had the Only Up phase, but that was a copy of another game, and it was still themed around Battle Royale, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4. Everything in UEFN isn't enough to be able to make a single standalone game at its current state. We're probably going to be waiting 5 to 10 years for that to get to that point. So in them 5 to 10 years, Fortnite Battle Royale still has to develop a consistent storyline and consistent seasons. If they fail to do that, then both UEFN and Fortnite will die. It's just that's the current state of it, and I think that's so crucial to know. And that's why this here today with Donald Mustard leaving, as much as I love Donald Mustard, I've also met him in real life once. He was a huge inspiration of mine in the gaming industry. His creativity is insane. What he did with Fortnite in the first 3 chapters, I'd say. Chapter 4 is a bit of a disaster, but it's just crazy to think that this is something that has been announced today. Now I don't know Donald Mustard's age, and I know everyone has to retire at some point, but just a little kind of funny point to make, some people don't always retire. You have like the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, these artists that don't always retire, but Donald does deserve to retire if he's ready for it. He deserves that respect. He's been amazing in the community, he's done amazing, and he can do whatever he wants, and that's up to him. But one thing that is important for Donald is to know what he's done and what he's achieved. His creative mindset, his creative process was completely different from what he developed as like a game dev and that. What he did with Fortnite was like an artist. It was a talent. It was something we'd never seen before, and he was an innovator and a leader. And that being passed on to someone else is going to be hard to find. That sort of degree, mindset, what he did with it was crazy, and I wish he would still do it. But if he wants to retire, that's up to him, and we all respect that. The thing with Fortnite, the audience moves quickly. New players come along, old players grow up, and when you grow up, you probably lose interest in the storyline, which means the storyline has to be there for new players. They have to have a way of kind of backtracking the storyline and catching up without kind of watching YouTube videos. That's kind of sad, you know, going on YouTube to watch your game's storyline. Does it really have to be that way? I'm not too sure. I feel like there should be a way of finding the storyline stuff in game, or at least having like official lore pages or lore books or something where you can kind of get up to date with it. And if you want to see videos of it, you can go on YouTube to look at it, but you shouldn't have to watch YouTube for the Fortnite storyline, because again, everything's opinion based on YouTube, and it's not official kind of lore, canon, facts from Fortnite. And generally, Fortnite itself is not dying, but the new players that come along is nowhere near as many as it used to be. So their interest in kind of like keeping the storyline alive has probably died out a lot. You see it with my channel, for example. I'm losing so many subscribers every day, probably into the hundreds, 200, 300 every single day. And it's not because my channel's been going downhill or the content's been dying. The reason the content has been dying in a sense that Fortnite aren't giving us as much content, but the reason it is dying generally, or just kind of losing subscribers, is because people are growing up. People have had their time on their Fortnite and they've moved on, and now the new people that are coming along is a lot less than the original hype of Fortnite. So obviously the balance of people losing people and getting new people is going to be higher to losing than it is for getting new people. For a very long time, for people like me, Happy Power, similar channel sizes, we're always going to be losing subscribers because the big boys have kind of marketed off the algorithm to the mass, and the smaller channels like myself and other people, we can't really find our way in unless we do shorts. And that's just the nature of a game that slowly starts to not die, but doesn't pull as much numbers and audience in with the newer audiences, because there's other stuff where the newer players want to go to, other games and other things, and want to explore that. Fortnite's just not at its peak pop culture as it was, but it still is a top 5 game, which is perfectly fine, and it should still deserve an ongoing storyline that's perfect. And this to me is super worrying that he is retiring, and it could be a disaster for the storyline. And I just hope that Epic have something in place. Maybe Donald's written huge lore books or given them huge sheets and information of the lore of the characters, or maybe they're going to find someone like Top 5 Gaming or myself, or someone that's got really passionate about the storyline, and hire them for just the storyline alone inside of Fortnite. But the thing is, with the Fortnite storyline and what Donald had as a creative director, he had to direct the game to include that storyline. And generally speaking, I don't think the storyline was a priority. It was just kind of made a priority by the community. I don't think the storyline was ever even thought through 100% properly. It was just kind of like, how can we lead this in with the most basic storytelling possible so players can understand it, even though players come up with so much lore and so many theories behind the scene. It just feels like that for the last few chapters. It hasn't really been a consistent storytelling to be honest, Chapter 1 had so many cliffhangers or questions to be asked about the storyline that no one really knew what was going on until we started getting more information towards Chapter 3, Season 4, after Season 4, I guess. 5, 6, 7, around there is when we started to get info. Chapter 2, for example, Chapter 2, Season 1 and 2, the changing between ego and alter ego to ghost and shadow was just ridiculously confusing. It's almost like they didn't start writing the story properly until mid-Chapter 2, and then it kind of ended at the end of Chapter 3. So, yeah, it does have... Storyline in Fortnite has a huge impact on the game, though. It increases sales of that cosmetic item, it increases hype, and it increases player connection. Having that feeling of going in, knowing that Dr. Salone's going to be on the map as a boss, knowing that Boss Foundation's there, and you know Foundation's backstory, you know that he's the leader of the Seven, you know that Dr. Salone's the leader of the IO, or one of the top members, not the leader, but the top members. You know these connection with these skins and understand them. But for example, right now, with the new Thorn boss that we have, you know, you have no connection with him. You can't build a story behind him. You can't build attachment to the character. And this has basically happened since Chapter 4. And it's almost like Donald has been kind of maybe pushed away in Chapter 4 and someone else has taken the role and just can't do it as well. Or maybe it was him and he was just kind of losing interest in it. I don't know Donald's full story. This is only my theories and my worries and concerns for the game, because I love the Fortnite storyline. I think it's one of the most interesting things in Fortnite, or has potential to be, because there is so much lore and so many characters that people are attached to and built to in the Fortnite lore, where you could tell such a great story. Look at the sales of the DC comics and the Marvel comics. The sales on them are insane. They sold out everywhere. I know they had cosmetic space, but I reckon even if they took the cosmetic sell point out with the free kind of item, people would still buy them comics if they're a fan of the lore. I don't think they'd sell out, but they would still sell. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. It's been quite a long video me discussing this, but I thought I had to make this and just generally give you my own opinions on it, because it's kind of a sad day and it's also a very worrying day. So only time will tell if we do get a future good creative officer at Epic, and will they be able to keep up with this pace and be able to tell a compelling storyline to engage with everyone. I don't know. I do have a storyline video which I was meant to release tonight, but I've delayed it because of this is such a big topic for me and many other people in the Fortnite space. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on what I've said here, or your thoughts on Donald Mustard retiring. I respect his retirement. I love the guy. I think he's amazing. He's one of my biggest inspirations, and happy retirement there if you are fully retiring from the game industry, Donald. But I hope that it is in good hands the future. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Peace.